Hi, my name's Carrie-Anne
My name's
Robbins,
Skylar.
and this is my granddaughter. And the reason why I brought her on here today is because I want to talk about spirits, because Skylar also does see spirit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. And so the reason why I wanted to do this is many people over the years that have come to see me for one-to-one readings have always sort of sometimes talked to me about their loved ones, their grandchildren or their own children, saying that they can see someone that's recently passed or passed. It's often quite young children, like 3, 4, even 2-year-olds that can see. And it's a question why this is. I mean, in my belief, I always say it's because when children are very young, society hasn't diminished that from them, because obviously when people grow up older and people are not overly open to this, they would turn around and say, well, it's a load of nonsense and what have you. So, you know, if society is constantly telling you that as a young child, it's going to suppress that energy. And that's what we're looking about, it is energy. So, you know, when Skylar has seen, obviously I explained to her, and also that she doesn't fear what she's seeing as well, but also to be mindful that categorically it's very important that we are safeguarding at all times. And that, you know, that doesn't mean there's anything bad or anything like that, but it's common sense that if you're working with young children, that about spiritual things, that we always have to be safe. Now, one of the things many years ago, I remember Shirley Spiritualist Church, they wanted to do a Sunday school. And how lovely would that have been? We are talking about 20 years ago now. But it's obviously getting the time and getting the people to do that. But what a lovely thing for children to understand. Because I was speaking to you, Skylar, wasn't I? And you said to me that you do talk about loss in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they? And how do they do that in school?
So they read us a book about animals and how an animal was getting old and it died, and all the friends were trying to find a way how to get over it.
Yeah, so they do talk about it, which is really important, isn't it? And it is really hard because, you know, perhaps there has been a grandparent in your child's life that has been like a second mother to them, and it's like, how do you explain that, you know, as to where they are? It is really, sometimes can be really hard, of the dynamics of that, and keeping it in a way that children do understand. I mean, for me, I'm very much believe that you know, children are very close to that energy, especially when they've been born, because they've just, in my belief, they've just come from the spirit world and transitioned to this earth plane. So it makes complete sense that children will be very susceptible to spirit. And another thing that people don't always talk about is children that are perhaps ADHD, autism, which I do have in my family with my eldest daughter, who is also clairvoyant, who is Skylar's mother. And it is they, because of the way the brain works with ADHD, it's and autism, they call it rainbow children. You can be very susceptible to seeing, because everything's on a higher frequency and a fast frequency for people with ADHD. So therefore, in my belief, it can be a lot stronger and easier for that person to communicate with the spirit world. So often that is the reason why children with perhaps special needs, not all, but some children may talk about seeing or seeing energy or seeing light in some way. So the question is we understand this. So how do we make, you know, children understand in a positive way? And I suppose that's being honest. It's also talking about honesty with physical death in a way that can be understood, in a way that's not going to scare them either. And the thing is, I'm pleased they do talk about it in school, because it is a fact of life that we are, you know, that animals are going to pass and that loved ones will pass, because that is the journey of our life here on this earth plane, is that we progress on to something more as well. For me, I'm very much, I can talk about this with my granddaughter, and the reason why I do is not because I'm forcing it on her. I want to make that very, very clear. It's because she tells me that she sees. So for me, I have a duty of care for someone like myself who is a medium, for her to understand what is happening so that she's not scared, and also to make sure that I'm actually happy with what she's actually seeing and getting from spirit, if that makes sense. So, you know, there's lots of questions we can ask. And for my own children, they were brought up in spiritual churches. They will say it many times, 20 odd years ago, being taken around spiritual churches, whether they liked it or not. But now, as they've got older, none of my children were christened. Perhaps that was mainly because my ex-husband didn't want that, which you have to be respectful. And for me, I actually christened them when they were very young. They all had their own angel, and we did it. And that's another thing about sort of spiritual stuff, is that I always say you don't have to go to church to have higher understanding of it. And my children are not spirituals now. They obviously have great understanding and respect for what I do, but now they're at an age where they can figure out for themselves of whether or not they would want to progress in that way. And that's another thing, back in the 70s when I was born, it was the done thing to have children christened, whether you were religious or not. Everyone did it. It didn't mean that you were necessarily practicing Christians. It's just what you did. And of course, these days, that is not so much the case now, is it? People tend, not always, I'm sure there are some people that have their children christened and what have you. So, but it's to be mindful. And also, I always say to be open about all faiths, all understanding, but to explain that we are spirit. We are spirit. Therefore, for some children or some adults, they will see spirit. And another thing people often say, well, can anybody be a medium? I always say there are some people that are born like it. They just naturally are. Just as some people are born to be very natural dancers, for me to be a ballerina, it would be like an elephant. There's absolutely no way that I am built, have any kind of awareness to be able to do that. But with spiritism, I do believe that if you are really dedicated and you believe in the spirit world 110%, then it can be by dedication of meditation, which is what I've talked about all throughout this journey on YouTube, then it can be an awareness that you can work with it. Some people don't always want to be working mediums. I'm always a believer. For me, it's a 24/7. It's not something you switch on and off. It's not something that you say, right, it's Friday, I want a weekend off. That doesn't exist in my world as being a medium, and I'm sure other mediums I know would agree and feel the same about it. But as I said, we are spirit, and some people would engage in mediumship of high awareness for themselves. And that's not necessarily as in giving messages to other people. It's also about understanding spiritualism for their own self and working within the two in their own life on this earth plane of mindfulness, of things that are positive for us in the spirit world, and understanding what the spirit world can give to us here to make our lives enricher with love, compassion, and with understanding. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And so please leave comments, because it's something that is often talked about with children, things like that, and how you explain that to them. And of course, a lot of the time people then automatically get quite scared, because I think, oh my goodness, there's this energy around my child. Of course, we can't be naive. We do have to be mindful of that, and it's always important to safeguard at all times. And that's not being dramatic, it's just being realistic. But the most important thing is to understand and talk about it freely. And that is sometimes, unfortunately, in society, I believe, is not talked about enough. So anything else you want to say, Skylar, today? No? She doesn't want to say any more. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that.
We're ending it.
We're ending it. I hope you enjoyed that small chat.
And make sure you like and subscribe down there.
Oh, right. Okay, there you go. And speak to you soon. Thanks, guys. Take
Bye.
it easy.